Our next speaker is actually Bazin from Tallaght University Hospital. One of the things that is the kind of the secret sauce of cancer trials is trust, because without patient trust, we can't do the trial. And part of that trust, ensuring trust is part of that is ensuring the trials are conducted well. So we understood that that you had the joys of a Food and Drug Administration audit in your cancer trials unit, and we felt that this would be a great exemplar of the degree of rigor that is present in a clinical trial and also the accountability that comes with it. So we're very grateful for you being here today. Thanks, Ashley.
How are you doing? Hello, so we just had an inspection last month from the FDA. So we got notified on the 3rd of February that they were going to inspect us on this second-line renal cancer. And we were aware we were an inspection target because we were a high recruiting site. We recruited 17 patients, consented 19, recruited 17 over a 17-month period. It was a complex toxicity managed study with lots of unscheduled visits. It was open label treatment, which made things slightly easier. So 2 IMPs versus an oral standard of care with a high data burden. There was 20,000 plus data points per patient. So we got an email, or Professor McDermott got an email on the 3rd of February to say they would be coming, if it would suit us, from the 13th to the 17th of April. So immediately we informed our hospital management and the sponsor company. The sponsor company informed us that 2 rooms, possibly 3, would be needed for the 5 days of the inspection. Now that was a challenge in a hospital that is hot desking all over the place, but our very fantastic deputy CEO actually gave over his office for the inspector, and that really helped us out. We had a pre-inspection with 5 members of the MSD pharma team came over from the Nordics about 3 weeks before the inspection. That was nearly more traumatic than the FDA inspection itself. So we just went into classic inspection preparation. So we reviewed all our SOPs and processes. I had always heard that the FDA were more interested in process rather than detail. Now, I don't think the FDA have been in Ireland in about 14 years, so it was sort of an urban myth and it wasn't our experience. So we did an overall summary, 17 patients. There's a lot of SAEs, a lot of amendments. I think we had 10 amendments for that study. We got our deviations on track. We allocated out our charts between the team and we just checked them, tidied them up, make sure everything was signed and available. I went down, and Rhonda, our quality manager, went down a rabbit hole of the FDA website, which is sort of overwhelming with documentation on these things. We had an investigator education session, went through potential, because anyone is up for interview with these inspections, so we went through potential questions. Then we had our 3-day inspection visit, and we responded to correspondence. We got 2 further emails from them between the February email and them arriving at site. 1 inspector, 5 days. So then we got the name of our inspector. And so what we don't want is a 483, which is a violation of FDA regulations. In my naive mind, I thought maybe 5 to 10% of sites might get a 483. She was a very experienced inspector. She'd 85 inspections under her belt. Her issues rate with 483s was 34%. So we went into a collective panic when we saw that. So what we thought they would, as in other inspections, there's usually a huge influence on consent forms where they study the consent forms. Delegation log, we were worried. We did 30-page delegation log. That was a learning for us, actually, and we'll change practice on that. We thought she'd focus on eligibility and SOPs. So we reviewed, we've 29 SOPs. We updated every one of them. That took a substantial amount of time. We went through all our SAEs. we thought she'd focus on that and all our processes. So we had a big think about everything, how from when we take a blood to when it's spun to when it goes, when it's couriered, all that type of thing. What she actually focused on for the first day and a half were the site files and amendment implementation. And actually with the FDA, that's different to EU because they, for example, we 10 amendments, I think. They don't look for amendments on IBs. So we had to weed out what was important for her. She really, really dug into source documentation. So she had 19 charts in front of her with shadow folders. The place was coming down with files and folders. And she went through nearly every one of them. She said she definitely had to go through the first and the last patient, so that's just a tip if they ever come knocking. But she went through pretty much, she obviously picked out visits. We didn't know what she was picking at. She did look at the consent form in each medical record, but she just had a brief look. She wasn't looking at versions or anything like that. She did look at AE recording and toxicity management and did ask us to go through the hypertension management of one particular patient. And she also was interested in PI oversight, so she wanted to see where that was. So day one, we had she was to arrive at 9. We had a pre-study meeting with the PI at 8:20 to go through just potential questions and details, but she arrived 10 minutes after that started. So we went and met her, brought her to her office. We had a bit of Wi-Fi issues, but we had someone on call from IT, and that was fine. So she went through what the inspections, the senior trials team were there, she went through our expectations and her expectations. So she reviewed the site files. So the next few days, Rhonda, Chris, and myself met her 2 to 3 times a day. She really had very little to ask us. Pharmacy came, she asked them a question, and they went through that. She interviewed Rhonda, our quality manager, and myself at one point, and that was absolutely fine. She did a site tour. She went into pharmacy, had very little to ask. We brought her to the oncology day unit, walked her through what a patient's experience was, but didn't want to go into radiology or labs or anything like that. So our closeout meeting, attended by all of the trials team, which she was happy with. She said as long as nobody was going to be mean to her, everybody could come. So she immediately opened up and put her hands on the charts and said, "I love your source documentation." She said it's in the top 5 of any site I've seen. So that was, we all actually welled up a tear, and thanks a lot to Rhonda, who puts a lot of work. So what we do is each trial we have a specific source visit log for that particular trial. So I think it works really well. So she told us there was 3 outcomes, 3 buckets. She went through them in detail, and ours was no action indicated, which was brilliant. So we were delighted with that. We'll receive an inspection report in 9 to 14 months. One thing I asked her is, does she inform the HBRA? I thought there would be some sort of contact, but she doesn't. And the pharma company don't either. So that was, I'm going to look into that to see if I should inform them. So what we would do differently, we'll maintain inspection readiness. It was really helpful when rationale for decisions were documented on the source, because 3 years ago, she could pick up a chart from 3 years old. You can't remember everything. So a nice story is nice to have. We're standardized our PI oversight, so we call things more PI oversight. They like that. We're keeping our source simple and traceable, and we keep saying we'll do this, so we're going to do it now, or implement our own internal audit system. And that is just an example of page 1 of our source documentation. So you can see at the top there that is specific for this individual trial. And Rhonda will go through the protocol and the CRF and pick out little unusual things that we may not necessarily document as standard and put them into our source document. And the nurses will work through that, and we will make changes as the trial goes along as we need. That's it. So, thank you.